Okay, so this is going to be the first in a series of screencast video lectures that I'm going to produce to guide you through the process of writing a critical analysis. And I'll be producing and uploading several more over the next several days this week to help jumpstart your thinking uh, on the critical analysis. And I want to stay straight out of the gates that time is absolutely key. The amount of time that you put into this critical analysis obviously will result in either a high quality critical analysis or a critical analysis that simply doesn't work. And so I think it's important to emphasize what it is that the University of Michigan is emphasizing on this particular website. It is rather helpful, and I suggest that you perhaps give it a look when you have the chance. It says, how much time is needed to do well in classes? Well, a 3 credit hour class typically meets for 3 hours per week and requires 6 to 9 hours of study and prep outside of class. So, what does that mean for us? Well, uh, we're doing an online synchronous session once per week because of COVID. And this means that y'all should be putting in at least 8 to 11 hours of study and prep into this class in order to learn and be successful. Okay, so this first short screencast video lecture is about finding your subject, topic, or theme. Okay, so as I emphasized at the beginning of the semester, it is imperative, it is absolutely essential, really important to be in the habit of highlighting or underlining and annotating the text. Okay, all the text that we read together. It's important that you keep track of your reading experience. Okay, so if there's a particular section, scene, lines, images, words that you think are important or just attract your curiosity, that are perplexing, that are thought provoking, that pull on your heartstrings, or that you find particularly compelling, keep track of your reading experience, right? By highlighting or underlining those parts of the text. And you might also wish to annotate the text. Uh, if there's a particular scene that you're not quite sure what it means or what the author is trying to say, maybe put a question mark in the margins. If there's something that you really, really agree with, or if there's a moment in the text where the story really starts to come together, maybe put an exclamation point in the margins. Do whatever it takes to keep track of your reading experience. Uh, and so, another thing that is really, really, really important when you are reading a literary text is to pay very, very close attention to your feelings. Whether there's something that is very sad, something that produces a certain measure of happiness or joy in you, something that makes you laugh, something that is terrifying, something that is creepy, something that is disturbing. It is really, really important, as a rule of thumb, to keep track of how it is that a literary text uh, makes you feel, because it may indeed be the case, and in fact, like most often is indeed the case, that stories, that literary texts, that poems, works of drama, novels, what have you, uh, they work by compelling or producing really, really strong emotional responses. Okay. Uh, and so once you have decided on a text that you would like to work with, It's also very, very important that you listen to your feelings. You want to choose a text that was emotionally gripping, that you're curious about, that you feel strongly about, one way or another, right? It could make you feel very, very joyful. It could be very, very disturbing. But the stronger the feelings, the stronger your emotional response, the more likely you're going to write effectively and compellingly about a particular aspect or particular aspects of that particular text. So the first thing that you need to do is choose a text that you get a very, very strong emotional reaction to. Okay. Once you've chosen the text that you want to work with, I recommend that you take the time to range back and forth in the text and pay close attention to what you highlighted, underlined, or wrote about in the margins of the text. And set aside a critical period of time to do this. Okay, I'm just going to show you a text. It's Jean Rees's Wide Sargasso Sea. A text, a short novel or novella that I've taught over the years. You see, it's gotten its use, but I'm just gonna, open up to, uh, you know, a page here and show you my annotations and give you a sense of, you know, the graffiti that I put onto a text like this, right? I've obviously kept track of my reading experience, and I go back and underline and ask my self questions, and circle things and so on and so forth. Uh, Maybe the text that you choose shouldn't have this much graffiti, but the more graffiti, the better, right? Because the more graffiti there is, that seems to be an indication that you've put more thought into uh, the text. Okay. And once you look back and forth, you range back and forth in the text and look what you underline, highlight, look at the annotations and the margins. You should carefully look for patterns in the text, right? Maybe you highlighted or underlined uh, certain aspects of the text with a degree of regularity and frequency that suggests that you tend to be interested in a particular aspect or particular aspects of that particular text. And so be on the lookout for patterns, okay? Uh, and see if you can give a name to the pattern or the patterns that you've identified. Okay, so I'm looking back through Wide Sargasso Sea, and there's a lot of compelling uh, nature imagery. And if I look through Wide Sargasso Sea, a text that I've read, countless times, the nature imagery seems to me to be particularly compelling. And I think part of the reason is that that Jean Rees is really developing, the themes of nature in conjunction with a host of other themes that are really, really important for us to consider while we're reading that particular text, right? So the same logic will apply to any of the texts that you decide to choose to work with. Uh, I think if you underline, if you highlight, if you keep track of your reading experience and you go back and range back and forth in the text, you should be able to identify uh, a pattern or a set of patterns, right? That you can ultimately give a name to. It could be a word, it could be a phrase, what have you. But once you write down that word, that phrase down, then you're in a position to identify the subject, the topic, or theme that interests you the most, that you be able to get the most mileage out of in a critical analysis. So this is the first step that you want to do in the process of writing a critical analysis. Choose a text and then find your subject, topic, or theme, and then we'll talk about what you do once you've found your subject, topic, or theme, or subjects, topics, or themes in the next screencast video lecture.